Why are there no wild animals in Nigeria? Answer: because Nigerians have eaten everything. They've eaten all the bushmeat, they've eaten all the snakes, they've eaten everything. Anyway, you guys, that's on a light note. So you guys, if you're not open-minded about your food choices, you might have a very hard time in Nigeria. You may not be able to eat, you know, a lot of things in Nigeria. So here goes a list, or just a few things that I never thought I would ever eat. I mean, this makes the list of strangest things that I've ever eaten in my life. So you guys, when I came to Nigeria, I was so surprised at the various food choices that are there. And I was like, with everything that you guys have, why are you eating these strange things? Number one, cowhide. You guys, cowhide, right? So in Kenya, cowhide is usually dried, and then they make things like mats, they make shoes, they make hats, they make different artifacts for, you know, decorating your homes. But you know what? It's a delicacy in Nigeria, and it's called pomo, right? Say pomo. And let me tell you something, it's a very rich source of fiber. And it's really, when it's eaten, I know you're thinking, oh, cowhide, how it's hard, and how, you know, you can't eat it, you can't chew it. How do you even eat that? It's so disgusting, it smells, you know, something. You guys, in Nigeria, people have evolved in terms of, you know, manufacturing and, you know, just making things work for them. So what happens is that they take the pomo, and there's a way that they process it, there's a way that they cure it. And by the way, this is not at an industry level stuff. This is done, you know, at a very local level, because, you know, these things are found anywhere. So anyway, pomo is one of the things that I got to eat, cowhide, and I eat up to date, and I make kick-ass soups with pomo. The other thing was gari. So gari is basically fermented cassava flour. So imagine cassava flour, and then it's dried, and then it's fermented, and then what happens is that you just put water in it and drink it. You guys, I was like, how do you drink raw flour? Well, it's not raw because it's kind of been semi-cooked, or it's been cooked to a good extent. But either way, how do you just take flour and mix it in water? Cold water, by the way. When you drink gari, you don't drink hot gari. When you now cook it, it becomes something else, which is another form of swallow called eba. But drinking gari is something that, honestly, I used to, for the first 2 or 3 years, I used to look at my husband drinking gari, and then he started giving our sons, and our sons are now professional gari drinkers. Like, you'll be just coming out, you know, from, you know, a hot day, you've just come, and Nigeria is very, very hot. Like, the distance between the car and the house, basically, you just park outside and get into the house. But the heat that hits you, you're just thinking, let me drink gari, especially if you've had a long day. So anyway, there's various ways that you drink gari. Personally, nowadays, because I've also become an expert drinker of gari, I just like mine very cold, with very cold water, and then I put groundnuts and cashew nuts. That's enough for me. Some people put ice cubes to make it even more cold. Some people put milk inside it, you know. Some people put, there's so many things that people use to drink gari. Some people make it so fancy, some people, but for me, I like it very, very simple. I mean, I never ever thought that I would drink gari. Now, there's in fact something else. Gari goes with very interesting things. One of my favorite things is gari with something we call moi moi. You know, moi moi and gari, they slap, you guys, eh? Now, that takes me to the other thing that I never used to think I would ever take. Beef with fish inside, or boiled egg. Guys, in which universe are you eating beans and boiled eggs, or beans and fish inside? So anyway, me, I didn't grow up liking beans. I went to boarding school very, very young, and we used to eat a lot of githeri. Githeri is nice. Nowadays I like githeri, but back in the day, most of us, I'm sure, can attest that growing up you didn't like githeri, you know. So the kind of githeri we eat in boarding school is not the best, you know. There's the hard maize and the beans, and some of these beans, eh. So in Nigeria, these very nice beans, by the Nigerian beans, there's honey beans. There's a particular brand I love, type. It's called honey beans. So what happens is that they take the honey beans, and then they remove the cover off it, and then they blend it, and it becomes sort of like a paste. And in that paste, they season it with various things like atarodo. I mean, it's a type of pepper. You can put some pepper inside. You can put crayfish. Some people put, I mean, it depends on your taste, but mostly crayfish or shrimp powder. And then as you now make the paste, you can either put it in a banana leaf, or you put it in like ramekins, yeah, something like that. And then now you steam it, right? Now a lot of people like the ones in the banana leaf because it gives it a different kind of flavor. But for me, I mean, why will I go and find banana leaves every time I want to eat moi moi? So what happens is that I use the ramekins. I just make the paste and then you know, have the moi moi, and it's a hit in our house, right? Every week, maybe on Saturday or Sunday, because it takes quite some time to make. I make it for my family, and usually the favorite for the young boys is usually with egg, right? My husband likes it with fish and egg, both. So when you go and buy, or when you're served moi moi, usually it's usually the more loaded it is, the more expensive it is, and the more, you know, enjoyable it is, you know. So if you give somebody moi moi, and you can even make it plain, you don't need to put egg or fish inside. It can just be, you know, just the bean paste that's seasoned with whatever, you know, with Maggie, with crayfish or shrimp powder, or whatever the case may be. So my husband likes it with both egg and fish. And the fish is the fish like Titus fish. Titus fish is like, I don't want to say sardine, I don't know, but it's quite an oily fish, and by the way, it gives it such good flavor. So for me, I either have it without the egg, without the fish, sometimes with both the egg and the fish, or with the egg or with the fish. So I never ever thought in any universe that I can eat beans with fish or beans with egg. And I know what you're thinking, no, that thing doesn't happen. It doesn't mess up your stomach. It's actually really, really sweet. So the other thing is some of the components that you put in the moi moi, like I've mentioned, is like crayfish. Guys, crayfish is shrimp. I think a lower level of shrimp, I'm sorry to say. People say they're in the same family, but it looks to me like not a cockroach. Okay, they call it the they call it the cockroach of the ocean. I don't know, somebody said that. But crayfish is not pleasant to look at, and especially it has very long what do you call these things? Are they tentacles or what? I don't know what they are, those things, and I can't stand it. So in our house we don't usually buy crayfish whole. What happens that we buy it in powder form. That's the only way I can have it. So I never ever thought I could have it, but I mean, when it's powdered, it's a very rich source of, I don't know, whatever minerals they are, but well, I have that. I never ever thought I could have crayfish. So but I usually I console myself that it looks like a shrimp, an underdeveloped shrimp, or a wannabe shrimp. So that's the only way that I usually have it. The other thing is snail. So I know Kenyans will think about snail. We grew up seeing the kind of snails that we see are the kind that when it's raining, and if you live in particular areas where there's a bit of bush or it's very green, you may find snails coming into the house or into your compound. Now, and those kind of snails, you just pour salt on it and then they dissolve, and they're very disgusting because they leave slime. Now, I know that's what's in the minds of many Kenyans, but the kind of snail that we're talking about are very big. I mean, they have a big shell. Those are the kind of snails that they eat. Now, the first time I don't eat snail voluntarily, but I do eat snail in special circumstances. I'll explain. So, you know, my very first encounter with snail was at this particular party. So there was this platter and there was food. So my husband was feeding me and he gave me, because I didn't want to touch the food because of the pepper. I was still not used to the pepper, so I was not touching the food. So he was feeding me at this party, and I'm like, what's that? It's very crunchy. And I don't want him and told him one of the things I will never ever eat was snail, because of the kind of mentality I had about snail. But we had gone to the market and he had shown me the snails, and they looked like nothing. He told me the ones in Kenya are slugs, those are not snails, or those are not even snails, you can't find those in Nigeria. So anyway, so I ate that and I was very, very upset with him. But anyway, I'd already eaten it, it was crunchy and it was nice. Now, there's a type of snail that I eat willingly, and it's in one soup called fisherman's soup. Any snails, it's a type of snail. That one is usually in fisherman's soup. I mean, that soup is rich. It has catfish, it has different components. I think it even has shrimp and all that. It's loaded. So yeah, I voluntarily eat snail in the name of periwinkle. So the other thing that I never ever thought that I would like was palm oil. Palm oil is red oil and it has a very strong smell. You know, in Kenya, most of the oils we have are sunflower oil, vegetable oil, maybe groundnut oil. You don't have as many oils as you know, as the olive oil, you know, those kind of oils. So when I came here and I encountered the palm oil, and especially my first experience when I first came to Nigeria. And please go back to that video of the shocks when I first relocated, and I just had a very bad what's it called, attitude towards red oil, because if you cook food and the red oil has not been cooked very well, you'll hate it. It has a very strong smell, and if you're not accustomed to it, or if you eat food that is cold and it's been cooked with red oil, you won't like it. But anyway, guys, you can't without red oil, because how are you going to make your soups and your stews? So anyway, the other thing was shaki. Shaki is matumbo. Growing up, I didn't eat matumbo much, you know, honestly, and not because of anything, and not because I'm snobbish, but I'm sorry to say there was a tag, and that's not the reason why, but generally we never used to cook matumbo much. I never loved the smell, I never loved how it looks. You know, there's the one, I used to call it towel, you know, the tripe. Matumbo is tripe. So, and then the intestines, you know, and here they call them roundabout. So you guys, nowadays I'm an expert cook of shaki and roundabout. So basically tripe. I grew up not liking it at all because I used to find it dirty and all that. The only way that I would eat is when maybe during celebrations, Christmas, or if there's a party in our rural area or in our upcountry home, and they've actually slaughtered a cow and they've made something called mutura, you know, because then you're sure who has made this mutura, and you're very sure who has made, there's something called dondero, a very big mutura, like a big one like this. So usually that one is made by men, and men are, you'll rarely find women making mutura or dondero. So it's a thing that happens at parties. So that's the only time I would eat, and it's a very small piece, right? So now I'm an expert shaki and roundabout cook, right? And the thing with the shaki in Nigeria, you know, in Kenya our matumbo is still very dark and brown, you know. In Nigeria there's a way they clean it that is practically white and very clean. The first time I saw it and my husband brought it home, I said, no, I'm not going to cook it. This one must be, you know, the intestines of one strange animal. I'm not going to make. He said, no, it's just cow, but they've cleaned it very well. And because he'd been to Kenya, he was like, even he doesn't like the matumbo back home because he's used to this particular one that's been treated and cleaned in a particular way. So the other thing that I never ever thought that I would have is palm wine, right? Now, in Kenya there's mnazi. Mnazi, I think, is the same thing, or I'm not sure. No, I think they're different, but I think they're in the same family. So I never liked it. Going to coast, you see people just drinking this thing, and I tried it severally anytime I went to Mombasa, and I never quite liked it. So I'd already put my mind that no, palm wine is not my thing. So anyway, palm wine is something that is amazing, you know, and not all palm wine is alcoholic. If it's virgin, anybody can have it, from, you know, young, old, pregnant women, very virgin. But the longer it stays and more fermented it stays, then it becomes more loaded. I mean, it becomes more alcoholic as it ferments. But palm oil is really nice. It's natural, it's amazing. And usually even palm oil during parties, they don't serve it just to about everybody, you know. They serve it to maybe a particular, you know, some people, and usually they serve it in keg. There's a way that they do it. It's so amazing, and they have very special, you know, cups for drinking it. So I never thought I'd take palm wine, but here I am enjoying palm wine nowadays. So the other thing is bushmeat, guys. Nigerians eat practically everything. So this place we went, and you don't get it everywhere and anywhere, but there, you know, I like guinea fowl. I like there's another one that my husband has refused to tell me the name, but I said whatever does not kill me makes, you know, it's okay, we are strong. So long and short of it, I also eat bushmeat, or not everything of course, because we're also careful, but I get to eat bushmeat. Growing up, because, you know, in Kenya we have a lot of national parks, I can't think of myself eating something from the park, you know, or a wild animal, or whatever the case may be. But I eat and actually enjoy bushmeat. So the other thing is that in Kenya also we have this thing that we eat. If you're eating beef, you're eating beef. If you're eating chicken, you're eating chicken. If you're eating goats, you know, those kind of things. I mean, day to day. But say if there's a celebration of you're in a buffet, or, I mean, not all families, I'm not saying all families eat only one thing. That's the most common thing generally, let's be honest, for many homes. But there are homes or people who eat different types of meat, maybe chicken, beef, and they are cooked separately. So this is chicken on this side, this is beef. Now when you think of mixing different kinds of meat in one place, that was the strangest thing to me. Like, I can't understand how you're mixing goat, you're putting fish inside, you're putting, you're putting a roundabout, you're putting shaki, you're putting everything inside. I used to think that it's crazy. But you guys, I'm married to a Yoruba man, and one of their signature soups is called eforiro, So eforiro is, you can have, it's basically vegetables, right? But Nigerian vegetables are not like our own. When we think vegetables in Kenya, we're thinking, okay, maybe spinach, or maybe kale, or maybe cabbage, or maybe broccoli and carrots, or mixed vegetables, that kind of thing. No, vegetables here is very small vegetables with a lot of meat inside, right? So now I've become an expert at efo. My husband can name different types of efo that I make. Efo of 5 lives, of 7 lives, of 6 lives. So the 6 lives, the life is maybe there's goat meat inside, there's pomo inside. Pomo is features in those things. There's fish, different kinds of fish. Maybe there's dried fish, there's stock fish inside, those kind of things. So I've made a pomo up to 7 lives. So you can try and imagine what it was. There's fresh fish, there's goat meat, there's beef, there's pomo, there's everything. So long and short of it, if you're not open-minded food-wise, you're going to have a very hard time in Nigeria. So there goes a list of things that I never ever thought I would eat and which I enjoy thoroughly in Nigeria. Nigeria will show you things, and Nigeria will change you in very interesting ways, and mostly good. So choose the good way. Good people, stay good and keep it locked, keep it here. If you know anybody that's curious about Nigeria, please hook them up with this place. Thank you. If you